Is Jesus the rock that followed Israel? At various places in the Old Testament, God describes himself as the rock. Let's examine a few verses and then get into our topic of discussion. In Genesis chapter 49, we read, "The mighty one of Jacob is the shepherd and the rock of Israel." In Deuteronomy chapter 32, we read, "God is the rock, his works are perfect and all his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong, good and upright is he." In Deuteronomy chapter 32, we read, "They abandoned the God who made them and rejected the rock, their savior." In 2 Samuel chapter 22, we read, "For who is God beside the Lord? Who is the rock except our God?" In Psalm 42, we read, "I say to God, my rock, why have you forgotten me?" In Psalm 61, we read, "From the ends of the earth I call to you. As my heart grows faint, lead me to the rock that is higher than I." In Psalm 78, we read, "They remembered that God was their rock. The God Most High was their Redeemer." In Psalm 144, we read, "Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." In Isaiah chapter 44, we read, "Is there any God beside me? No, there is no other rock. I know not one." And finally, in Psalm 118, we read that the stone the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. When we look at the New Testament, we read in Matthew chapter 21, Jesus quotes from Psalm 118 to the chief priests and the elders and says, "Have you never read in the scriptures, the stone the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Anyone who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces. Anyone on whom this stone falls will be crushed." We also read in 1 Peter chapter 2, "As you come to Christ, the living stone, rejected by men, but chosen by God and precious to him." And finally, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, Paul says, "For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and that they all passed through the sea. They all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ." Let me repeat the last verse, "For they drank from the same spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ." Here Paul makes an astounding statement. He says that the 1,000,000+ people who were in the wilderness drank from Christ the rock, who followed them for 40 odd years. Let's close our study today by reading what we already read from the Matthew's Gospel. "Anyone who falls on the stone will be broken to pieces, and anyone on whom this stone falls will be crushed." Dear friends, it is better to voluntarily fall on this rock and be broken from our sin and pride than wait for the rock of God's judgment to fall on us and crush us. May God bless us through these thoughts.